Alright, I do hope that you all had the chance to see Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I do have a spoiler-free review. You might want to check this one out. It's right over here. However, this is spoiler talk. I mean, movie-breaking spoiler. You have been warned. This video will start in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Right out the gate, when this movie started, I was like, that's interesting. It's clearly not a Man of Steel sequel. Why? Well, because Ben Affleck does the narration, you see his voiceover, you see glimpses into Bruce Wayne's past, and then you get to see the end of Man of Steel and Bruce Wayne just sprinting into the 9/11 of Metropolis. And again, I love that scene so much because it was so intense, it felt so real. It doesn't feel like your typical comic book film. You're like, oh, the pain is real. The stakes are high. And again, everything in this movie related to Bruce Wayne or Batman was phenomenal. And I really mean that, phenomenal. And if they really focused more on a very specific storyline, this movie could have been great. Sadly, it wasn't. Also, what I really loved is the very first time we see Batman in action. It's really terrifying, and we never got to see that, because for the very first time we get to see Batman out of the perspectives from the police and the criminals, and it is fucking terrifying. He's like a devil, you know? You don't really see him, he's this shadowy figure. All of a sudden, it looks like he's just floating in the air, and it's scary as shit. And you're like, yeah, that's Batman, because Batman is supposed to scare the living shit out of criminals. You're like, that's phenomenal. Another big thing that people hate about this Batman is the fact that he actually kills people. Yeah, he does. I mean, he even uses guns, so all that, no guns, no killing, that Christian Bale was all about, yeah, you can throw that right out of the window, because Ben Affleck does not give a shit. Did it bother me? No, because this is an older Batman, 20 years into the game, and you're like, yeah, well, he's seen some shit. What I found interesting, though, is, yeah, you get to see that Robin suit, you get to see spray paint all over it, and there is this subtle Joker mentioning that you saw in the trailer, but he even says to Alfred, how many good people are left? What does a promise mean? And all that little hint, I was like, is Jason Todd the new Joker? Are we gonna learn this about the Joker in the Suicide Squad? And if that's the case, I'm not sure what I think about this, because I like my Joker without an origin story. However, it would make sense for this universe, so I'm really interested to see where they go with it. Does it really mean anything, or is Nightwing around? I don't know, but I do wanna see it. And Nightwing, is Nightwing gonna be Jason Todd or Dick Grayson? Again, interesting. But right after the beginning, after the first act, is actually where the problems start happening. You get to see Lex Luthor, and yes, I bitched about him before, but now I can get more into that. Well, because he's clearly crazy. He is more like Edward Nygma in Batman Forever than an actual Lex Luthor. I mean, you have those serious negotiation scenes between him and the military official, and he just feeds him with some candy. And you're like, no, you're not the Joker. You're Lex Luthor. You're smart. You're methodical. And you shouldn't be like this. Also, he barely shares screen time with Superman, which is kind of fucking stupid. I mean, picture The Dark Knight, and Joker and Batman don't have a standoff in this one. I mean, it would be stupid, wouldn't it? And yes, Lex Luthor actually retrieves the body from General Zod, infiltrates the old Kal-El Superman spaceship in order to create an abomination, which ultimately is Doomsday. And that entire story arc felt so forced, so out of place, and you don't really know why Lex Luthor hates Superman so much. You really don't know. Well, because he's crazy. I hated that. You want an origin story. And Superman himself, I said in my spoiler-free review that I liked it, but there are clearly no motivations behind him, because this movie ultimately is a Batman movie. And it shouldn't be like that. This movie should be about Batman's motivations, Superman's motivations, them fighting, and boom, here's the thing. And then they threw Wonder Woman into the mix, and that is something that I couldn't really talk about in my spoiler-free review, because I really liked her. She was interesting, intriguing, and mysterious, because she was after Lex Luthor as well to retrieve some data. Ultimately, Batman gets his hands on that data, and you get to see all those other super beings. Was that shoehorned into the movie? Yes. But did I like it? Kinda. Because you get to see all those other super beings. First of all, the first thing that Batman sees is a picture of Wonder Woman during World War I time. And you already know this is what her standalone movie is going to be about. So he's like, yeah, you're old. You're like really old. Interesting. The second one he sees is The Flash just stopping a criminal at a gas stop. Then you get to see Aquaman, which was really weird. Aquaman's was like the most random. There was like an underwater camera, and all of a sudden you just see this guy pop up, and he's like, I was like, really? That's the best you can do? But Cyborg was really interesting. You see this random experiment on a half-destroyed human body with cyborg parts. I want to see that. That looks interesting because Cyborg was the one that, to me, as a comic book reader, he was always an extra supporting character. After seeing this little footage, I want to see his own movie. It looks really dark. It looks like Dr. Frankenstein or some shit like this. And yes, to me, the coolest Justice League hint was actually a thing that a lot of people considered to be a dream sequence, which it clearly wasn't. You see this one dude in a red suit just popping out of a random vortex, like really bending space-time continuum and warning Bruce Wayne. He's like, you were right about him. Lois Lane is the key to everything. And I was like, is that Flash? Is that Flash from the future? Is he bending the space-time continuum to give Batman a cryptic message? That's awesome. That's awesome. And I really want to see how this comes to play. Please don't make this just a gimmick. This has to make sense. Yeah, after that, Lex Luthor pretty much blackmails Superman into the fight against Batman. And this is something I didn't really like. Because he kidnaps his mom. He's like, well, you have to kill him or I kill your mom. I was like, oh, really? But the fight was cool. I love the fact that Batman is clearly the superior fighter. Yes, Superman is super strong. I mean, he could kill Batman with his pinky. But it's all about strategy, and Batman has the superior strategy. He analyzed this dude. He knows his weaknesses. And if we're talking technique, well, Batman is a warrior. He's a trained warrior. If Batman had the strength that Superman had, well, he would be unkillable. After Clark just mentions the name Martha, all of a sudden he's like, oh, our mothers had the same name, so we're pals now? That was sort of weird to me, and it was only added to the movie to wrap up the Batman v Superman arc because there is another arc to be covered, and that is the death and return of Superman. Yes, they shoehorned this entire segment into the film during the last 10 minutes because Doomsday gets created by Lex Luthor, then just attacks the city out of nowhere, and this is where Wonder Woman comes to play. And again, they shouldn't have put that in the trailer because her scenes in the battle against Doomsday are awesome. You're like, oh, she is actually the coolest warrior in the DC universe. But again, that entire segment was unnecessary because Doomsday is just a big blah, blah, blah. And his entire story arc, again, is covered within 10 minutes. Superman realizes in order to kill Doomsday, he probably has to die too. So he kills him with kryptonite and Doomsday ends up killing him. And when that first happened, I was like, that's cool. Are they killing off Superman and leaving him dead for good? Not that I wanted to see Superman die, but I was like, this would add more weight to the characters. Like, the remaining members of the Justice League, Batman and Wonder Woman, would create the Justice League as a tribute to Clark. And I was like, that could be really fucking cool. But sadly it didn't, because you see the funeral and the casket starting to wobble a little bit. You're like, okay, he's back. Which sort of nullifies the event of his funeral, just like they did in the comic books. But yeah. And also, biggest dick move ever. Martha Kent giving the engagement ring to Lois at Clark's funeral. I mean, come on. That's distasteful. Yes, the movie ends with Lex Luthor behind bars. This is when they finally shave his head again. He doesn't lose his hair because of Kryptonian radiation or some shit like this. No, he's just a prisoner. And an insane prisoner. Seriously, he shouldn't even be in prison. He should be in Arkham. And this is where he starts to snother all over the place. He's like, he's coming. Because he saw some visions of Darkseid. And they beat you a little over the head with all the Darkseid references. I mean, you already had this one almost apocalyptic vision of Batman where you're not really sure, is that a glimpse into the future or a dream sequence? This was the one thing where I'm not sure, where Batman has all this military gear on and some Darkseid flying monkeys are attacking him. I was like, is this real? Is it not real? I don't know. And you even see the big Omega on the ground where you're like, yeah, that's clearly Darkseid. But then they had to address it again near the end when you see the picture in Lex's living room about the impending apocalypse and about all those flying devils or archangels just attacking out of nowhere. He's like, he's coming, he's coming. So yeah, Darkseid is a thing, which I'm not sure about this, because if you look at the character of Darkseid, he is too similar to Thanos, and to have him be the ultimate antagonist of the DC universe, I don't know what to think about it. But I can tell you something. When this movie was done, I was like, I'm intrigued. I now really want to see a Cyborg movie. This is something I couldn't address in my spoiler-free review. I really want to see the Wonder Woman film because she was really interesting. And all the other characters, I want to see the whole Flash thing with time-bending possibilities. Amazing. So this movie did a great job in setting up the DC universe. However, standing on its own, it was just flawed and over-convoluted. The Batman stuff was amazing. Superman wasn't really relevant in the film. Lex Luthor was a wasted opportunity. And also the way it ended, you know, made you reflect on what you just saw. And you're like, well, it really nullified the weight of the situation here. So these are my spoiler-filled thoughts on Batman v Superman. Again, what are your thoughts on the movie? And I reckon that you saw the film. I gave you a nice warning. Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. And if you like what you see here and you want to see more, then just subscribe.